So this is slightly different than usual because I'm starting the video before the game. I will be at the senior day game versus Marquette, and I thought it would be a good idea to capture it and have it to look back on. I'm very excited. It's going to be a really special day. I definitely can't wrap my head around where the time has gone. I know Paige and Aubrey like to joke around that they've been here forever at 5 and 6 years apiece, but really, like I said, I remember their freshman years like it was yesterday and what it felt like to have them come into the program, and look forward to the next however many years of them on this team. But there still is a whole month of basketball left for this team, and hopefully a little more than a month if everything goes to plan, and I'm looking forward to it and we'll be tuned in. If all goes to plan, this should be half vlog, half game recap, reflecting on the end of the regular season, which again is crazy to say. I didn't get to talk about the Creighton game on here yet, so I will briefly recap this last week. We'll see how it goes, what this video ends up being. Of course, for senior day, this was the shirt of choice. This was the only option. How could I not? I have to represent. This is the shirt in all of her glory.
Thank you guys for coming out. Thank you for an amazing 4, 5, 6 years. I couldn't imagine going to a different place. This was a dream come true, and I'm forever grateful for it. We're not done yet.
And that was the UConn regular season, 31 games later, and we're here. There have definitely been some high highs and some low lows this season, but I always enjoy following this team through it all. This season obviously had a lot riding on it, and still does, with it being the last hurrah for the seniors, multiple players coming back and returning from injury, and several new exciting additions to the program, whether they're staying for 1 year or 4. I am really looking forward to what March will bring. This team has definitely stepped up and answered a ton of questions recently, though there still are several pressing questions that they'll have to answer as the postseason goes on. I've long been confident that this team would figure it out and put together their best basketball when it mattered most, so it's exciting to finally be at that point where we'll get to see how everything shakes out. But before we get into that and all the game recaps that are still to come, let's briefly discuss this last week of UConn regular season basketball. I was quite pleased that UConn got to close out the regular season by playing the number 2 and number 4 seeds in the Big East in Creighton and Marquette respectively. Both are quality opponents and a solid lead-in into the conference tournament. The Creighton game even had regular season implications because Creighton at that point had only had 1 conference loss on the season, and a loss by UConn would have seen the 2 teams share the regular season title, but UConn won it outright by defeating Creighton 72-53 on Thursday, and then on Sunday for their final matchup of the regular season, UConn defeated Marquette 92-57. These 2 games pretty much unfolded in opposite fashion in terms of UConn and their momentum. UConn started off super slow in that Creighton game and gradually found their footing. I do find myself asking from time to time if it's really a UConn Big East matchup if their opponent doesn't drain their first 2 threes and jump out to an early lead. It's been something of a pattern recently, so it'll be interesting to see if that carries over into the Big East tournament. The hope is that it doesn't. UConn's 11-point first quarter versus Creighton was tied for their lowest scoring first quarter of the entire season with the Holy Cross game back in December. At that point, UConn still did have a 1-point lead going into the second quarter where things really turned around for them. The second quarter was certainly turnover central for Creighton. UConn's full court press and overall defensive effort just worked wonders. It completely stifled Creighton's offense. To illustrate that, they forced 14 turnovers in a single half from a team that usually averages 11 turnovers across the entire game. There was never much of a doubt to begin with, but from that point on, UConn was firmly in control of this game. Conversely, UConn had a really solid, really fun first half versus Marquette and seemed to cool off considerably in the second. However, like I said, the first half was pretty fun to watch. I am completely biased because I was in attendance for this game, and games just feel so much more exciting in person. But I have never seen that many 5-second violations forced by UConn in my life, and that 31-point first quarter was quite the contrast from the Creighton game, so I was having fun. Now, my biggest takeaway from this last week of UConn games, and really the entire regular season, is thank goodness for Sarah Strong. Really, I think that kind of speaks for itself. Sarah is such a special player, and I can hardly wrap my mind around the fact that this is just the beginning for her, that she'll continue to get better. The fun thing with Sarah is that you can very clearly see that all the pieces are there. She's a force down low, even when being undersized for the role that she's asked to play at times. Excellent at positioning herself in just the right way, in just the right spot, and creating separation to get her shot off. Super quick in terms of her movements and decision making, has terrific court vision, runs the floor in transition, drains her threes. There was truly no one who could match up with her in either of these games, which were her usual efficient stat sheet stuffing games, and that will certainly be the case outside of conference play as well. On that note, one of the main concerns I have, and something we did see play out in that Creighton game, is foul trouble. Sarah is vital, there's no other way to put it, to the small ball lineups that UConn is partial to. Take her out and there are clear holes that really can't be patched. Another small, minor, barely concern is turnovers. She's had a couple more than usual in some recent games, so hopefully that gets cleaned up a little bit. Like I said, in the grand scheme of things, a more minor concern. Sarah is just a transformative player for this team and for this program. She just won the Big East Freshman of the Year award and was named to the all-conference first team, and I am sure that she's going to become quite the fixture on that list. Just bravo to her. She was undoubtedly the player that impressed me the most this season, and I've fallen in love with her game because how could you not? I also thought Aubrey Griffin was a real bright spot for this UConn team in this last week, particularly in that Marquette game where she got the start according to usual senior day tradition. She played 13 minutes in that game, and 4 of her 5 made shots were offensive rebounds and putbacks, which I just think is tremendous and such a testament to the kind of player that Aubrey is. That reverse layup she had in the third quarter after collecting the offensive rebound off a missed jumper from Azzi had me out of my seat. Being able to count on Aubrey to come into the game, kick the team into another gear or maintain the same defensive intensity, secure crucial offensive rebounds and second chance opportunities, do things no one else on this team or on the court for that matter can do on account of her athleticism, is something that reassures me so greatly. Aubrey is going to be such an X factor this postseason. The last player I'm going to talk about briefly here is Ice Brady, who returned in the Marquette game after missing 7 games with a shoulder injury, and she got to work quick and had some immediate highlights with an offensive rebound off a missed 3 from KK and a reverse layup, and then a 3 from the top of the key to beat the buzzer at the end of the first half, which again, I was out of my seat for. Ice in her first game back finished with 7 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 blocks in 16 minutes, and the stats combined with just the eye test made for a really strong first showing back from Ice. Gino even did say himself that this is the best version of Ice that he's seen in her time at UConn so far, and it's right on time for the Big East tournament, which was her breakout stage last season. I'm really happy that Ice is back and looking forward to what it means for this team. That pretty much sums up my thoughts on this last week, these last 2 games, and now that it's officially the postseason, here are some rapid fire things that I would like to see from UConn in the Big East tournament and beyond, really. First is just tons of Paige and Sarah's 2-man game. That would be my entire playbook because they're just unstoppable. By the way, congratulations to Paige for going back-to-back as Big East Player of the Year and for the all-conference first team nod. She's tremendous, as always. In this last week, she had 2 efficient shooting nights and has been racking up assists as of late. Us fans have been discussing the merits of her having the ball in her hands all season long, so it's nice to see that finally coming to fruition. I would love to see Azzi Fudd shoot the lights out in the Big East tournament and start another hot shooting streak. These last 4 games have been relatively quiet for Azzi after 2 back-to-back 30-point performances, so it would be at just the right time. I do really enjoy that in recent games, Azzi has been looking to score in a bunch of different ways and taking a variety of shots. Congratulations to her on also being named to the all-conference first team. What an accomplishment and what a comeback season it has been. It is such a joy to witness. I would love to see Kaitlyn Chen continue to confidently take the shots that opponents are giving her and score in double figures. Kaitlyn scored in double figures 4 games in a row, starting at the South Carolina game and ending at the Creighton game. She hadn't done so in more than 2 consecutive games before that, so she seems to really be in a good place, and she is also someone with considerable postseason experience, which will definitely be an asset for this team. I'm hoping that Jana Alfy and Ice Brady have breakout games. Jana, of course, recently had one with that stellar first half versus South Carolina, but she only saw 11 and 13 minutes of playing time in games this week. It's of course matchup dependent, but UConn really does seem to like going small. And for those instances in the tournament where it's not possible or not advantageous at all to go small, I would really like to see Jana and Ice get in some solid minutes here. Like I mentioned last year, Ice Brady had her breakout moment at the Big East tournament, which really carried her forward for the rest of the postseason, and I would love to see something similar from both of these post players this weekend. I really want Ashlynn Shade to continue to look for and create her own shot, and her shot to continue to fall. Congratulations to her on the Big East 6 Woman of the Year nod. It's well deserved for a player who has very clearly put in the work for a more complete, well-rounded game. She has turned herself into one of the premier rebounders for this team and such a solid defender. Just my hats off to her. For KK Arnold, I would love to see her take those threes that are given to her. KK is a player, though, who understands her role and how to contribute to winning exceptionally well, and I am so confident that she will continue to be that much-needed spark off the bench for this team. And finally, last but not least, a big Aubrey Griffin game in the tournament is something that I would definitely love to see. A lot of the same that I said for KK. I think these two have just really shined all throughout conference play, or for Aubrey as long as she's been back. How quickly she got back up to speed is so impressive, and I am banking on a big Aubrey Griffin game, whether it's in the Big East tournament or in March Madness. For the team, I want to continue to see their stifling defense. I think they're really good at it. However, I would also love to see a lot of quick closeouts to the perimeter and less doubling that ends in wide open threes. That's kind of been this team's kryptonite all season, but overall they do an excellent job of applying pressure, disrupting their opponents, and taking advantage of that to go on runs of their own. That pretty much has always been what UConn basketball is. I also would like to see some better decision making on passes. I do think, especially at the beginning of quarters in recent games, there's been a few more than usual bad entry passes or just completely telegraphed plays. So would be something to do away with. Every fan of basketball just has something that they're more annoyed by when they watch a game. Like for me personally, I am less annoyed by missed layups and more annoyed by missed free throws, but one of my top things has always been turnovers and travel calls. So that's probably why I bring it up, because it's just something that I notice more. I would also love to see UConn try and go big with some of their lineups. I know and I agree that their small ball lineups are their best lineups, and they do play a lot of small ball in the Big East out of necessity because it's the best lineup they can put out there for the matchup, but time is definitely winding down to get the bigs reps and minutes. So my thought process, considering UConn might have to go big later on in March, is why not give it a shot? And that's pretty much it. As always, thank you for watching, especially this different sort of video. I'm really sorry for the week or 2-week delay in getting a video out. March is just a crazy month. The moniker March Madness is so true. I will just say now that because UConn will play 3 days in a row for the Big East tournament, I'm not going to do a game recap after every game. I'm going to do it at the end, summarizing the entire tournament. So looking forward to it. Let me know what your thoughts and takeaways were from this last week of the UConn regular season and now heading into the postseason. And that's what happened with the Huskies last week. Till next time.